that is dedicated to, the fight and the struggle of that man who was to be maybe perhaps one of Nigeria's best presidents, but it just never was. Well, we're not alone on the show. We have a full table this afternoon. We have Mr. Great Imo Jonathan here. He's a media relations expert, also a political analyst. Good afternoon, Mr. Great.
Afternoon, Pa, and yours. Happy June 12th celebration and Democracy Day now it is.
All right, it's great to have you here.
Thank you very much.
Also, we have our amiable Chuks Nwanne, who is a renowned journalist with the Guardian newspapers. Good afternoon, Chuks.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
And of course, we have a second time coming on the show.
Yes,
it's an honor to have you here.
colleague.
Yes, he's our senior colleague.
Very, very
Yes, so
very, very senior. You understand that.
he's a communications expert, Mr. Felix Obaya. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, welcome.
Thank you indeed for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, viewers, the number to use is 0708 740758, and it's for SMS only. And once again, we'll just be discussing the life and times of the late Chief MKO Abiola. All right, we're starting with a brief history of his early life. Who was this man, MKO Abiola, that everybody is still talking about over 2 decades down the line? Today while I was putting the reports together, my assistant was asking me, who is this MKO? And, I felt old all of a sudden. I'm like, you don't know who MKO is?
He must be a young person.
We actually need to blame history because I was just discussing with you. Sorry to just button their patience there.
Go ahead.
We actually need history to be taught properly in schools.
Yeah.
I remember way back then, while I was still in secondary school, I still learned about the Queen Amina, the Danfodios. Yeah. But these days, too many things, the kids don't know anything. Yeah, so it's just so sad. All
right, so let's start with the early life of Moshood Kashimawo Abiola. We remember him as a Nigerian Yoruba businessman. He was a publisher, he was a politician, and he was an aristocrat of the Yoruba Egba clan. He was his father's 23rd child and the first to actually survive infancy. Every other one died, as an infant. That was why he was named Kashimawo, which, if translated into English means, make we dey look am first. It wasn't until he was 15 years old that he was properly named Moshood by his parents. He started his first business at age 9, selling firewood, and he used that to support his father and his siblings. And thereafter, he started performing in a band at the age of 15 and sort of like gathered enough money to pay his way through primary and secondary school. Quite a very eventful childhood, if you ask me. But before we start the discuss this afternoon, let's take this quick footage on the biography of this man, Moshood Kashimawo Abiola. We'll be back after this.
Before his foray into the murky waters of Nigerian politics, Moshood Kashimawo Olawale Abiola was one of Nigeria's most colorful philanthropists. Born in Abeokuta on Wednesday, the 24th of August, 1938, to parents who were by his own account too poor to send him to school, MKO Abiola's superlative brilliance in elementary school won him scholarships virtually all through life. Before the scholarships started coming, he had done virtually every imaginable thing to see him through elementary school. Though born a Muslim, Chief Abiola attended Baptist Boys High School, Abeokuta, Ogun State, on the scholarship of the Nigerian Baptist Church between 1951 to 1956, and University of Glasgow, Scotland, between 1961 to 1965, on the scholarship of the then Nigerian Western region. He loved giving and would readily tell listeners, but for the Baptists, he would at best have been a poor vulcanizer in Abeokuta. It is one probable reason why to the late business mogul, giving was a business you must not be found wanting in.
As an individual, I care. I will still be meeting about 50 people in the house tonight, and I will attend to them. That is my life. But I will attend to them more directly, not as a charity, but as a duty.
When he returned to Nigeria, he joined the Lagos University Teaching Hospital as the deputy chief accountant in 1965. 2 years later, he joined Pfizer Products Limited, Lagos, as chief accountant. But it was at the International Telephone and Telegraph Corporation that he hit gold. He joined as a controller in 1969 and rose to be the vice president of the corporation in Africa and the Middle East. He was the chief executive ITT Nigeria Limited 1977 to 1988. He retired voluntarily in 1988. A human dynamo, Chief Abiola had enormous capacity for work even with all his wealth. He dispensed money freely to the needy to worthy causes anywhere in the world. He was dubbed the pillar of sports in Africa because of his generous contributions to the development of sports. Throughout his adult life, he was committed to the upliftment of the black man. He left his mark in every venture he dabbled. His foray into Nigerian journalism changed the face of Nigerian media. He brought substantial panachy to newspaper publishing as the publisher of the Concord Group of newspapers in the 1980s. He was also of the strong opinion that the colonialists and slave dealers who plundered the continent should pay reparation, a crusade he could not finish before his death. Official records have it that Chief Abiola was honored with more than 100 titles across countries and continents, of which include the Basharu of Ibadan and the Are Ona Kakanfo of Yoruba land. Chief Abiola was married to many wives, including Alaja Kudirat, who was herself assassinated on Tuesday, June 4, 1996, by guns of the then military regime, trying to silence the definite clamor for the actualization of the June 12 election.
In 5 years' time, no Nigerian child will go to bed hungry by the grace of God.
Welcome back from that. All right, great. Let's talk about this man, Moshood Abiola. What do you remember him for the most?
Wow. I think I would say I was young during his political heydays, and but the experiences we gathered from the little we had, watched on TV, and what we have come to read over time. Abiola, especially the event of 1983, Abiola have come to represent the symbol for the struggle for restoration of democracy, for free, fair, quality elections in Nigeria. So Abiola has gone from being that businessman who had been described to that candidate of SDP who has been described, to the symbol of the struggle to relinquish power from the khaki men and to restore democracy, to set Nigeria on the path to good governance. Yes, we never experienced his governance, as in we never saw him to become the president, or we didn't see him become president.
Yeah.
But from what he represented, there was high hopes. Even the concept of his campaign in 1993 showed how foresighted he was. Compared to some of the things we hear about, some of the promises, he was specific about some of the things he wanted to do. He encapsulated in his campaign theory the hopes and aspirations of young Nigerians, of future Nigerians, of the things that needed to be done. So that's no wonder made him to win the overall interest or the popular vote of Nigerians.
Right.
But again, Abiola also, from the moment he won that election, has ceased to be a private citizen, has become the property of Nigerians. The millions of Nigerians across board who voted for him, Abiola, represented is a cross-politan person, a cosmopolitan person, a cross-bridge builder. He was voted for across religious backgrounds, ethnic backgrounds. People never wanted to know where he was from, the religion. It was about what he represented. So Abiola represents a history that also reminds us of the things we need to do going forward. It is unfortunate that after 1993, and after the lessons that were derived from the struggle that Abiola led, some of the things that the history of Abiola's foray into politics taught us, we are yet to implement. And as we are told, history always repeats itself, oftentimes in a more devastating manner when its lessons are not learned. So, for example, the damage that was done by annulling June 12, which was symbolized by Abiola's struggle, is now affecting us politically, even in the present day Nigeria. For example, in 1999, even those who struggled for the return to democracy were not confident that the military were going to hand over. So we ended up having the wrong persons becoming governors, becoming senators, and they have now begun to institutionalize their own culture of criminality, of bad governance. So we're still back somehow in that struggle that Abiola led for us in 1993. The struggle for good governance. We still see that the struggle was to relieve Nigeria from military leadership to civilian rulership, which will mean the popular interest, the popular vote, the consensus of the masses. But now we still see that some of these people who are still ruling Nigeria still behave as if they are still military leaders. Governors who are completing their 80s want to install people they want. They don't want the popular opinion, the popular vote to count.
Which was
they are
what
still
he stood
using
for.
high-handedness.
Yeah.
In civilian democracy, we still saw the likes of Obasanjo removing governors forcefully and all of those. So the history and the symbolism of that June 93, which Abiola himself personified, has really not been led. So discussing Abiola as an individual, we'll be doing a disservice to the nation. We have to discuss Abiola for what he has come to represent to Nigerians, and that is the symbol, the significance of today for me.
All right. Yeah. Okay, let's bring in Mr. Felix now into this. What would you have to say about the annulment that was June 12, 1993, and the legacy of the late MKO?
Well, let me just, as it were, give an insight about my first contact with Abiola.
Okay.
1982, I was still a fresh student, or rather the fresh student at the University of Lagos. And as a department, my seniors, we couldn't get enough money to buy a bus, a brand new bus, we call, is it Oban, they call it?
Yeah. Oban.
Which was for 8,000 naira. So the department, students have gathered some money, I think about 2,000. And Abiola came that day because the department invited him in the Mascom week. And they said, what was the difference? And the difference was about 6,000. He paid it. And the department got a brand new bus for 8,000. That's the students of the Mascom Student Association. That was the first contact with him in 1982. So prior to that, he had had all kinds of influences. He was a generous man. And people knew the kind of thing he was doing, irrespective of whether you were a Christian or a Muslim, he was just too generous. Now, the significance of 1993, unfortunately, has been bastardized by people I refer to as shenanigans, who are just masquerading, because a lot of young people today didn't know what happened. So they want to present a picture of were part of the struggle. A lot of them were part of people who betrayed him. And today, claiming to be pro-democracy people. The reality of it is that there were too much for Abiola to bear. You may not like to hear it, but that's the reality. Abiola was part of the team of the past. that is liaising with the military boys and getting all the businesses, whether here or elsewhere. So if you recall what particular happened between him and a man, he was then chief of air staff, where he sent boys to somehow molest Abiola then on the streets of Lagos. And the truth of the matter is that Abiola represented something because he tried to break away from the class of the military. And the military knew him so much. That this is our padina, this is our person, and we know what he can do with power. You see, there's something many of us don't understand. In the north, among the outside, there's an idea you say power is better than money. Because when you have power, you have money. So the military then did not want him to move from the position of controlling money to having power. So that was a cross. They still needed to maintain their power. But Abiola, by that June 12th, crossed that bar. And for those who had power, because their power, they control money, they don't want to let go.
Because it was a threat.
It was a threat, and they knew. Forget about many people who are pretending today to be there, and we love him, we are brothers from this. It is a lie. Mustafa made a statement that if he should open up what happened, there are a lot of people who are masquerading today, who are pretending to be lovers of Abiola, will be put to shame.
He said he has he said he's done a videotape.
He said
yes, that some people collected
today. So today it's easy for us to come to the television or elsewhere and say, I love him so much, because 25 years down the line, many of these you don't know what happened.
Okay, let's bring Chuks one into this discussion. Another outstanding thing about the late Abiola was his success as a businessman. And we saw him, actually like delve into different areas, Journalism was one of the areas he went into and made like a remarkable success. You are a journalist, and I know you recall the days of Concord newspapers. Let's talk about Abiola from that angle.
Okay, it's actually a very sad, it's always a sad experience when you think about what happened with MKO Abiola election that was annulled by the military. But I want every young person to learn a lesson from the life of MKO Abiola. There's a lesson to be learned. I don't want to go into politics. We've talked about politics a whole lot. But this is a young man who came from nowhere. It shows that hard work pays. This guy had to work to pay for his primary and secondary school. But we have a lot of young people who sit down and they're in school, but they're complaining they don't have all they needed to have. This guy didn't have nothing to go to school. So it's just telling you that you need to work hard. Secondly, in the footage you just played, he went to university with scholarship. What happened to our government scholarship? So it means that if we didn't have a Southwest government then that had the idea of sending their children to school, and MKO Abiola would have gone to school. That's what happened to governance. As bad as it was then, we could still send those who feel that needed to go to school, we could still send them to school. People still remember Jakonde today because of what Jakonde did for people to go to school. What has government of today? What have we done? So in looking at MKO Abiola's life, we also look at ourselves today and say, have we advanced? Are we going front or are we going back? Don't forget that MKO Abiola ran with King Ibe. It was a Muslim ticket. We didn't care.
We didn't care about religion
so
at that point.
Has religion become a major item that
your
vice must come from north, this one must be a Christian?
Exactly.
At what point? We all needed good leadership. And if you check it, MKO Abiola's campaign was not about grammar. He knew what the people wanted. He was telling them the little things that was bothering people at that time. Today, we have people who come into government and they speak grammar all through, and you don't get anything done.
So, sorry, let me interject a bit there. You spoke about him running on the ticket, you know, with a fellow Muslim, which didn't matter. And it also didn't matter that he was a Yoruba man. And his opponent was from the north. And he beats the northerner, even in the northern states. You know, so, I mean, yeah. We have to mention that.
If you analyze the campaigns of 1993, very refreshing. Abiola had already made strong inroad in the South, where you can refer to as Christian South. So irrespective, I just said earlier on, don't forget that Abiola himself went to Baptist High School on the Baptist scholarship.
Yes, scholarship.
And he was a Muslim.
So that also adds something.
So religion was never really
for the people down here in the South, religion was not a factor.
And even talking
and
about...
that was exactly how he was able to cross over.
Yes, that's true.
If he was not popular down here, it would have been difficult.
Exactly.
All right,
because that's exactly what
you talking about his foray into the media. One of the key factors I've realized in reading about his involvement and investment in the media is that Abiola had, the sense of recognizing talents, giving younger people opportunity. And most of those people who we read of from Concord newspaper have gone to become giants in the media world today, and which is also a lesson. He was not actually from the media background, but he had interest to invest. He brought in those who are young, who have the capacity of mind to push, and gave them the opportunity. And beyond the media, we need to see a lot of Nigerian leaders today do that. A lot of people who are out there give young people opportunity. And I could bet you that some of those who were given the opportunity were not as latent in terms of media, work. But giving them the opportunity, they grew their confidence, they grew experience. But today, if you are looking for a job in so many places, they will ask you for 20 years work experience, and thereby, after someone has spent 10, 15 years being jobless, you are asking for 20 years work experience in an industry where he has not gotten a job before. So for such, we need to learn the lesson that also he represented something beyond politics. And not just for those in the media world, that also across his business lines, you find out there were a lot of young people who joined him, when they were young, and who are today authorities in different sectors.
True.
And that is a lesson for both politicians and also business leaders.
To add to what you just said, because what worries me is that sometimes I ask myself, where are the legacies of MKO Abiola? Where are the businesses? The other day I was passing through the airport connecting to Ikeja, and I was looking at the Concorde. It has turned to a Korea company. And the significance of what this government has done, no matter how you look at it, whether you say they are playing politics, whether you say they are trying to win an election, no matter how you look at it, this might end up being the only legacy the young people will come to remember MKO Abiola.
Well said. All right, now for young people who might not know some of the achievements, of the late Abiola, he set up Abiola Farms, in his lifetime. There was also Abiola Bookshops, Radio Communications Nigeria, Wonder Bakeries, Concord Press, Concord Airlines, Summit Oil International Limited, African Ocean Lines, Habib Bank, Decca West Africa Limited, and Abiola Football Club, Abiola Babes, like we came to call them, just to mention a few.
How many of them are still?
Just to mention a few.
Because I knew that Decca had to do with the record.
Okay, well, the number to use is 0802-836-8971. Please discard the former one. That one is not working. 0802-836-8971. Now, let's talk a bit more about his political career. Of course, we all know Abiola ran for presidency in 1993. And that election was declared Nigeria's freest and fairest presidential election by both national and international observers. But the results were annulled by the then military president, Ibrahim Babangida, because of allegations that they were corrupt and unfair. All right, let's quickly go and take this footage of... Let's take this footage of Abiola's reaction, when the elections was annulled, and also we take a couple of the jingles then. Till date, I can still sing those songs, you know. That's to tell you how you know, impacting, you know, it was really. All right, so we take that reaction video, and we also take some of the jingles, you know, at that time. We'll be back.
I'd like to confirm the kind of relationship you have now with the president.
President Babangida is a friend. If you look at the house, take a snapshot of all the pictures in the house, you will find more of his pictures in my house than my own pictures. We've been friends for over 20 years, very close friends. There have been quite a lot of efforts made by some people to create some friction between us. These are very trying period, but friendship is made to last and be passed from one generation to the other. I believe that will be the case in our situation too. These are temporary difficulties. The nation is passing through it. The armed forces, some of them are passing through it. But we will not allow that to affect our relationship.
How do you react then to his comment today that he has no apology for what he has done?
I don't know who is asking him to apologize. Is anybody asking him to apologize? See, a leader does what he believes is the best thing to do in a given circumstance. But a leader, when he has superior facts, can change his mind. That won't amount to apology. And nobody's asking him to. I'm not. Are you?
Are you?
No, I'm not. I'm just asking you. I mean, in what context was that statement made, if I may ask?
It was in the news today. I think he's reviewing the whole the situation and saying that he stands firmly by what he's done. Perhaps has a wind of what the SDP's position is.
Well, I'm not asking him to apologize. I'm just asking that in the light of the popular mandate of the Nigerian people, as a Nigerian too, and as a leader of Nigeria, you should think again. That's all. I'm not asking for apology. In fact, that is not required.
Are there any other views you want to put across?
Well, you know, this is a very it is not always every time that the changeover of government from military to civilian goes as clockwork as that of Obasanjo to Adishewu Shagari. It could be difficult in some instances, but maturity is required to deal with it, experience is required, and patriotism is required on both sides. Yes. That will not be lacking by the grace of God on this occasion too. Certainly not on this side.
Thank you very much indeed.
Nigeria on the march again.
On the march again.
Looking for Mr. President.
On the march again.
MKO is our man. Oh.
MKO is our man.
Now him go make our country better.
He's the man.
For progress and a better tomorrow.
He's our man.
Make you vote for him, my brother. I say make you vote for him, my sister.
He's our man.
Everybody make una vote for him.
He's the man.
Now him be our only hope.
He's our man.
I say now him be hope for tomorrow.
He's the man.
On the march again.
On the march again.
SDP the people's choice.
On the march again.
MKO is the man.
For this life, oh, na so palava. I tire for this problem, I tire for life, oh. Give me no work, no food, no house, no life. The small water, then they bring na so dirty, they pull am. The small money I they get na so transport, they chop am. School low, na headache, hospital, no work. I tire for life, oh. My brother, waiting you they think, oh. My sister, help don't come. SDP, MKO, Kingibe, action. MKO, Kingibe, SDP, progress. Abiola na the the hope for SDP na the party to solve our problem and better our life. Oh, MKO, 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 action. Abiola, 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 progress. Now he be the hope for better tomorrow.
Welcome back. 0802-836-8971 is the number to use. Let's start with your chooks this time around. Let's talk about, this political ambition that never saw the light of day, really. How was that really taking us back as a nation?
Part of the challenges we are having now as a nation is as a result of that election, annulment of that election. Because after that, we entered a different, it became a different Nigeria altogether, because the pains of that election continued. Because it wasn't about a Yoruba man. I remember those days in the Southeast, we voted for MKO Abiola. A whole lot of people were MKO Abiola. And then we had what we call then also Abiola, the Abiola crisis. All those things, like a build-up. I don't think we've ever recovered from that 1993. It's still there. You can't discuss politics in Nigeria.
But can I ask, how can an election that seemingly, was fair and free to every other person, be adjudged corrupt and then annulled?
You know what? Because for years, IBB then didn't want to talk about the issues of why it was actually annulled, and his reason was just one thing. He talked about security threats.
I think one of the things he said that time, one of the interviews he granted, I heard him say that he apologized and he said, "I'm taking responsibility." But he has not come out to explain exactly why.
What responsibility?
And that is what only him can tell us, and those who were part of that decision. Because, like we all pointed out, it was free and fair.
He agreed that it was actually
in fact,
free
in the broadcast, he said it.
But
he now pointed out there are irregularities, this, and that. But we know that they have their reasons for doing what they did.
Maybe they said we're not ripe enough.
It was in the interest of the country.
No, the reality is that we should go back a little bit backwards. Nigeria became independent on certain platforms. You have the Southwest, which was referred to as the Western region. Then the Delta, that's Delta,
Edo Delta,
and the Southeast. That was a tripod. And unfortunately, as it were, 55% to 60% of Nigeria was considered to be northern. So in terms of population, in terms of landmass, the control over all the power instruments came from the north. Now, between 1960 to 66, there was what looked like sharing, balancing, regionalism, or what we refer to now as devolution of power. The regions control a lot of things. But by 1966, when the Council Coup of August 29 took place, the entire political equation of Nigeria changed. The so-called unification decree that Ironsin gave out, unifying all Nigeria, now placed all the instruments of power and money and every revenue in the hands of the federal government. Mark, who controls the federal government, controls money.
Yes. The resources
So,
come from there.
Abiola represented an attempt to change that equation in the eyes of the military boys. Don't forget that many of these military boys, we go back and look at how they joined the army and all kinds of things. Who was the pulling force behind them to join the force? So it was a part of the extension of the politics, the military angle, in terms of who controls power in Nigeria. So Abiola was an attempt to let those other people know, wait a minute, you stand a chance also of getting into that power, into that throne. Remember what I mentioned earlier on, there's an Hausa adage that says, power is better than money. He who controls power controls money. So that was what Abiola was trying, in their own perception. And don't forget all this, I told Nigerian billionaires or Nigerian millionaires, or I call them billionaires. Most of them, 99% of them, are people who have either worked for government or work with government or are friends of those in government.
Yes.
Go and check it. Name all those who are wealthy. So, what gives you that power or that money? So if Abiola had money and now had
now
power,
we're seeking power. Yes.
He
would have been unstoppable.
That was
unstoppable.
it. So he had to be
Okay.
stopped.
Oh wow. All right, great.
Well, I often tell people that it is the consensus of the elite that will always determine any kind of change, whether positive or negative change. In 1993, I could say that it was a consensus of the elite to deny one of them the opportunity to lead for whatever reasons best known to them. But I would think that it was really in bad faith because it has affected the nation negatively. And the lesson to learn from that is that most of them who were empowered then are no longer empowered. And they have a lot now to regret, being that they had the opportunity to make positive impact. They had the opportunity to allow for the political decision to hold so that the power is given back to the people, so that the interests of the majority of the people are carried along. It's symbolized by Abiola's pursuit for power, even though he was one of them. But they were carried away by the elite politics, by the acrimonies among them, that they forgot that beyond their particular interests as elite, there were the popular society that required the attention of leadership. The failure of 1983 is a failure of leadership. It's the failure and the lack of courage of leadership to do the right thing, irrespective of what interests as of that time, to do what was the greatest good for the greatest number of people, irrespective of what enmities or challenges they had with Abiola as one of their elite class members. They refused to do the right thing. And that is still haunting us, like Chut said today, is still haunting this society till date. Because that, the failure of 1993 affected our political psyche. And by 1999, a lot of quality brains, technocrats, people who have capacity, were afraid to venture because they didn't know if it was going to come out fine. So we had a situation where across the length and breadth, in the state houses of assembly, the governors who were elected, most of them were not the capacity, the caliber of people who were supposed to be leading Nigeria of the 21st century. But because they were the people who were close to the military boys, or people who really had nothing to fear, who had nothing to risk, they went in and they got it. And they have continued to institutionalize their level and their capacity across the states. We still have all those things coming against us today. So the Abiola struggle is a struggle for free election. It's also, like they talked about the reason they canceled the election, they said corruption. I want to say to date, there has not been history that Humphrey Woods, who led the Electoral Commission, have been mentioned for any corruption. It's a history for those who still lead INEC today. That if as far back as 1993, under the military government, even when the interests and the stakes were high, somebody could stand his ground to say there is no corruption. Today we have just common recs from a local government going home with $500 billion. You see a man who's been put in place to oversee election in the states going home with $1 billion, just to pander to the interests of the few, not minding the thousands of lives who were lost from the violence that emanates or results from the cancelled election or from the manipulated election, the wrong persons who are choosing to lead, and the effect of wrong leadership or wrong persons in power. So they don't have leadership interests, they don't have this capacity. That's the problem.
I think one of the biggest problems we have in Nigeria is that we assume that good is defined or seen by others as what it is. You see good from your perception.
Perception, that's true.
To them, it was a class an attempt to annihilate a class. So the definition of good is, wait a minute, allow this guy to get in there, we are finished.
Yes. Well,
But their own
interests.
forget about and that is exactly what's happening today. Many of us have a very, very narrow, and I think many of us have a very narrow definition of corruption. If you see me 10 million naira or 1 million naira, it's true. But I decided to put my person who may not be very competent as a good MD of NNPC. It's a worse corruption because I know what goes in there. But when you extreme me, you won't see anything.
Okay. All right, we're going to go into discussing quickly, his imprisonment and also that led up to his death. We'll look at that. But let's look at how our viewers are reacting at this time. This one, Pastor Sam Otukwa from Benue State says, Nigerians are yet to recover from June 12 election. IBB failed his friend, MKO, at that time. Carrying out the interest of the people, that is what Abiola stood for. I just hope our leaders will live up to that again. This one says, ladies and gentlemen in the studio, my name is Bright Owen from Agbara Estate. As somebody who grew up in the barracks, Abiola would have been the most dangerous of the greatest people that ever led the country. What does that mean? The most dangerous.
That is assumptions. It's assumptions. We have not been saying Abiola would have made a good president. The issue is that what the struggle represents, what the struggle Abiola represents, the symbolism of that struggle. That's what we're saying. So.
All right, Akpalara Femi says, kudos to the team and crew of Galaxy TV for being the most respected grassroots TV in Nigeria. Thank you. I make bold to say that the new recognition being accorded Abiola and June 12 is a turn to the right direction. Buhari, to me, is not the issue here, but the grassroots ahead of 2023. All right, this one says, can we go back to that 1993 election, the free and fair? No way, even Buhari cannot go back to it. Shame on us, Nigerians. One more before we continue. This one says, good morning. I was 8 years old when it happened. My mom then said there was stampede in my school, and eventually we traveled to the east and was beaten by ants. That is called Abiola rashes in Igbo. Please, I want to know, how did he die? Because my children are asking me questions. All right, let's talk about his imprisonment. I know that in 1994, Abiola, declared himself president, and of course we all know the roller coaster of events that followed after that. Mr. Baya, what do you recall from how Abiola was imprisoned and then how he finally lost his life?
Well, I think it was a very tragic because they had a rally in a place they call Ikpetedo, Lagos Island, and he had declared himself president and was into hiding or trying to make things difficult for the military to pick him. The military were determined to pick him. But somehow, I don't know what happened that day, but it was in his house at Toyi that the military swooped on him.
Here in Ikeja?
Yes. And picked him. The reality that nobody can actually say clearly what happened. Because they said he took a cup of tea. I don't know whether Carrington was there. Walter Carrington was the then American ambassador to Nigeria.
Condemned for rice.
No, it wasn't rice.
The rice was...
No, it wasn't rice.
There was the lady who visited was an agent of the government,
but there was
not then the secretary, but she was also part of the visiting
at that time, and he got a cup of tea. The rest is history. Or we just found out that, or we heard that he died. So nobody can actually.
But he died. Was that on the day he was supposed to have been released? Wasn't it on the day or
no,
close
he said it was meant to be released.
Like, it was supposed to be released.
Yes, there were a lot of discussions towards that time, but it was not specific whether it was that day.
That day or not.
But for the first time, I think they brought him out of the cell, and they were discussing, and I want to suspect that they were giving terms, what you must say or what you must agree on. But the long and short of it, he took the tea, and a great man passed on.
But don't you think it would have been too good if the true picture is actually painted out to the public on what actually went wrong on that day? Because we've seen so many people on that day that he died, because we've seen so many people that actually lost their life in the struggle of making democracy work. We've actually seen the late Alfred Ruwane. We've seen too many people that actually died then, even his wife.
You know, the truth is that there were, at the time this thing happened, I think they had a panel and they were looking at, that we never got to know exactly what the report said.
Till date.
And that is why I'm saying that it's only an IBB that will explain to us what happened in 1993. Because he was the head of state. And the fact that he came out and said he wants to take responsibility. I think he should take full responsibility.
Also,
But,
also,
Abiola died
I
in
think we're deceiving
1998,
ourselves.
not 1993.
Yeah.
There were other people who were in power at that time.
you know, he was detained for 4 years.
For 4 years.
For 4 years.
So it was
yeah.
in 1998 he died. There were other people who had taken over from Abacha to Abdul Salam.
Abdul
but they are the
Yeah.
same people.
Yeah.
The same team.
Yeah,
If you
so-
check, Abacha was in IBB's
I will sometimes
They were all together.
there is a way I look at the issues of death. Everybody must die, and that is also the lesson that our leaders must learn. Yes, Abiola is not here. Some of them too who play role in between those 1993 and now, some of them have also left. Whatever they are left with is the legacy they left behind, whether it's positive or negative. We are discussing it. Today we are remembering Abiola, whether he was a good man before he pursued a positive course that we are discussing today. We are discussing his positive impact. We didn't even know what he was really like. Our senior colleague here is dissecting for us. But what is important is that it could have been natural death, could have been a natural occurrence, but because of the situations and the machinations of the elite at that time, it has become a suspicious death right now. So, but what is important is that if it is suspicious, it then is also a consensus of the elite, which must
that's exactly what we're saying, because
for that to have happened.
by the time IBB stepped aside and Abacha came in, and we know the link between that IBB government and Abacha government, he served in the same government, the same military guys. So it's the same. It comes to the same thing my senior colleague is saying. Is something that, I don't know, Abacha is late now, so the only person you can turn to is IBB.
It's IBB, yeah.
That's why I'm saying only an IBB will be able to say. And
No,
that's why it's not
no,
talking.
legally speaking, he was not
It's-
responsible at that time for
no,
the
that's-
well-being
that's-
of Abiola, who was
in
in
incarcerated,
incarceration.
yeah.
We are
Yeah,
not
so,
in a nation where we declassify documentation.
Yeah.
It's 25 years. Ordinarily, certain things would have been released. But we are not in that.
Yeah,
time
because
daily
even the
Demand
autopsy.
asked them,
Yeah.
where is any information? No. So I think the lesson we must learn in this situation is what are the things that represented Abiola's victory? And those are things that come like structural adjustment. All right, what I'm structural adjustment, restructuring the nation. We can't, oh my God, we can't hit even 1% at this rate. If we continue, you see, my biggest worry is that when I look at statistics, I get worried. 15.1 million youths, graduates out of job.
that is even very underestimated. If you know the population of young people who don't have jobs, you know that is just statistics to keep us calm.
It's the poverty capital of the world, overtaking India. Well, how do we move forward? That's what we should be. This man has told us that, for this victory, that we can move forward. Except we galvanize all these things, we are headed towards, unfortunately, a big crisis or a bigger crisis. Because the frustration of the people I'm seeing on the streets,
It's just too much.
when the boss won't have enough army to contain them.
It's going to be an implosion,
You know, because
so to say.
the other day people were celebrating not too young to run.
Bill, yeah.
And I sat down in my house, I was laughing. You know why I was laughing? Yesterday, today, and tomorrow, money is going to remain a major factor for anybody who wants to go into politics. That's it. I was asking one of them, he said, now that we got to that, I said, how old are you? You're almost above 40. So you could have even run for, whether adjusted or not, you could have run for that president. Why
Long
didn't
before
you?
now,
Why didn't
yeah.
you run? So the lesson for me is that no matter what happens, money will continue to play a role in our politics. And we should be thinking and then asking ourselves that question. How do we take away that money factor in our politics?
No, the only way as well to take it is to look like what I thought, and I'm still believing that someday we'll do it, and the young men should face it and push it, is to ensure that local government system operates. And the entrance to local government is by popular vote, not by Baba Sokpe.
No.
Except they need to take over the local government. And that's where to begin to take over power.
To start, yeah.
Because as a councillor, I may have about 4 or 5 streets. I don't need to spend all the money to
And
do
everybody
that.
know who you are. If you are not good,
Thank
they
you
know.
very much. They must insist that the local government, because that's where the fight will start from. You can't start at government level.
All right.
We just need to pray that amongst the elites, repentance will take place. Because if that does not happen, let me tell you, for example, a lot of young people have been militarized, they have been armed, they are the ones who have the money to feed them, to push them around, to keep people. Even if you want to go and fight a local government chairman who have been installed by one Baba Sokwe, do you have the strength? Do you have the money? That is why I say it's the proliferate of the elite, because it is a culture of godfatherism. Then you use a local balance to explain it. Because what has happened right now is that the young people, even after you have passed the bid, they still do not have the strength, the money to mobilize to do all of that. So it will require the implosion of the elites. One of them or some of them going against themselves. If the elite do not fight themselves in any society, change do not take place. Because when the downtrodden attempt to do it, they always do it in a more devastating manner that nobody recovers from it. That is where Liberia is there, and all of them are there.
So almost up. Okay, this one just coming in says this posthumous award is one of the best things this government has done. I see MKO as the father of democracy in Nigeria. He's the bridge from military rule to democracy. He is an unforgettable hero. Chief Johnson Wabweze from Mali says the elites was afraid of him and what he will bring to the table. Besides, it was ahead of his counterparts in the game. Watching the clips you played on MKO Abiola put tears in my eyes. June 12 is a symbol of the number of man. Oh, wow. Okay. Anyway, that one is from Pastor Sam from Benue State. It's been a very interesting discussion today. Just for a quick recap, MKO Abiola was arrested because he was accused of treason. And he was arrested on the orders of the military president, General Sani Abacha, who sent 200 police vehicles to bring him into custody. One man was, he was detained for 4 years. And the only condition attached to his release was that he renounces his mandate, which he refused to do. Even after the offer to pay all of his election expenses, he refused. And